The issue has aptly captured is slavery, colonialism, and Marshall Plan. To my own understanding, slavery and colonialism was part of our history and was part of our journey as a people. Not just Nigeria, but the whole of Africa. Marshall Plan for Africa is a welcome development. But I will say that it is more of a necessity after the Second World War in Europe than it is in the present or contemporary world. If you look at those nations that have emerged from perhaps the same history of slavery and colonialism from other continents, you will see that there was no master plan or Marshall Plan that came from the outside. Some of the top nations that have today emerged from being an underdeveloped ex-colonies, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Malaysia, Indonesia, you don't see a master plan coming from outside of their countries or continent that led them to where they are today. So whatever master plan or Marshall Plan for our emergence from where we are to where we should be and to the future, I think it should be cognizance of our views, our interests, our necessities, and our peculiarities. The idea of having a year for Africa is not new. United States and several other industrialized nations have at one time or another declared some of these years for Africa. But what has always ended up was a package of aid to the continent and some plans on paper that at the end of the day never get realized. For us as a people, 50 years after colonialism, we have been battling issues that are economic, in some cases political, security-wise, and other issues. What this Marshall Plan should do should be to look at our own solution to our problems and see how the industrialized world can support us to succeed. It has always been said clearly, we don't need aid, we need a fair trade, but we need both. We need the aid and we need a fair trade. The image of Africa today is different from what it should be and what it is being conceived. The idea of our situation from a typical person who comes from the Western world is that this is a continent unstable, in poverty, in crisis, famine, some semblance of dictatorship, and all those things you have. Africa is treated and relegated to the background. Most Western leaders don't take Africa seriously until when they are out of office. Then they set up foundations and then they come over to Africa. And that is when Africa becomes an issue. We have become such a place, a scenery, where celebrities and people who want to hit the headline in this West will come to our refugee camps, come to the famine areas, snap photographs, and post it, and appear on Western media. And when they are asked about Africa, they shake their head that they have seen horror, and they were only here for some few days. Now, what we need from the West is that, first of all, we should be treated as equal and as human beings. We should also be treated with dignity and respect. And the rise in the West of the anti-immigrant law and anti everything. I think such political parties are a threat to world peace, as they are, as terrorism are. If you will be of support to us, what the developed world should do, first of all, is to look at recommendations. If you don't trust our government, you trust our civil society groups. Look at the recommendations which they have on how our country could develop, and then support such kind of process for us to move forward. Marshall Plan for Africa is well thought of, but the very fact that 50 years after most of our independence this becomes, we can say is better late than never. But how this master plan or Marshall Plan will be able to work in a new world where you have the rise of the ultra-right, the rise of anti-immigrant politicians everywhere on the most countries of the West, is something that left to be desired. We, as Nigerians and Africans, we will appreciate any support that will help us realize our dreams, our goals, and our objectives. But in every sense, we said, as far as Africa is concerned, the solution to Africa is in Africa. And also, for Africans, we should know that solutions will not come from anywhere. Nations of the world are struggling themselves, even the developed nations themselves. Europe, as an organized community of nations, its future is facing a serious uncertainty, and economies of the Western world, perhaps most importantly the European Union, the EU itself seems to be sustained by France and Germany and very few others. So when we try to say we will expect you to do everything with us, we know that even in your own side, things are not that very rousy. We thank you for this, and we are very hopeful. We're hopeful that this time around the Marshall Plan will do the magic that others were not able to achieve. Thank you very much.